You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. The TV remote was in my hand, but I wasn't really watching anything, just clicking through channels, not even registering what was on. It was one of those lazy Saturday afternoons where you don't really move, don't really think, just kind of sit there, letting the quiet hum of the house wash over you. That's when I heard the car door slam outside. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Just figured Olivia had run out for something and came back. Maybe groceries. Maybe a coffee? She hadn't said much that morning, but then again, she hadn't said much in weeks. I almost didn't look, but something made me glance up. Habit, maybe. Paranoia, maybe. And there she was, Olivia, my wife. She was walking up the driveway with a man I didn't recognize. He was younger, mid-20s maybe, with that kind of swagger you see in guys who've never really had to earn anything. He was wearing a fitted button-up and grinning like he owned the damn place. I sat up straight on the couch, heart suddenly thudding. I couldn't hear what they were saying through the window, but I could see it. The way she tilted her head when she laughed. The way she let her fingers graze his forearm as they reached the door. The way she didn't look back at me once when she stepped inside. They walked in like I wasn't even there. Olivia didn't say hello, didn't offer an explanation. She just brushed past me like I was invisible. The guy gave me a brief nod, like I was the doorman or something, before following her down the hallway. And that's when it hit me. All the signs, the late nights at work, the way her phone was always face down, the coldness in her voice when she said my name. They all clicked into place, like puzzle pieces I had been staring at too long, finally snapping together. I sat there on the edge of the couch, frozen, my hands clenched into fists. My mind spun with questions I couldn't even form yet. How long had this been going on? Who was he? And how the hell did I not see this coming? The anger came first, hot and sharp in my chest. Then the confusion. Then something else. A numbness that settled in the pit of my stomach. I didn't have proof, not yet, but I knew. She was cheating on me. And this was the moment I finally stopped pretending otherwise. I stayed in that spot on the couch, eyes trained on the hallway where they had disappeared. I could hear them talking faintly, her voice light, almost bubbly. His, lower and full of that smug confidence that made my skin crawl. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but every now and then, Olivia laughed. She laughed, not the polite kind she gave me at dinner when I tried to crack a joke. This was the laugh I hadn't heard in months, the kind that came easy, like she didn't have to think about it. I stared at the muted TV screen, jaw clenched. My chest felt tight, my fingers twitching. I couldn't sit there any longer. I got up and walked into the kitchen, pretending to pour myself a glass of water, just as she walked past with him again, heading toward the back door this time. They didn't even notice me. The screen door creaked open, then shut. Their voices faded into the backyard. I waited. 10 minutes, maybe 15. I couldn't take it anymore. When I heard his car start up and pull away, I peeked through the blinds. He was backing out of the driveway, grinning like a man with no shame. Olivia waved at him from the porch. No hug, no kiss, nothing obvious. But her eyes lingered on him a little too long. She walked back in like it was any other afternoon. No mention of him, no explanation. Just grabbed a soda from the fridge and went upstairs. That's when I knew. She wasn't going to tell me anything. Later that night, when she was in the shower, I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at her phone on the nightstand. I had never touched it before, never felt the need. But that night, I picked it up. No passcode. She hadn't even bothered with that much. I started scrolling. Nothing stood out at first. Just texts to coworkers, friends, a few family members. But then I found a folder in her gallery labeled Recipes. My gut told me that wasn't what it sounded like. It was locked. I tried the passcode again. Nothing. I searched her notes app, found a hint. Our anniversary. That worked. Inside were screenshots, messages, photos, texts that made my stomach flip. Last night was amazing. Your hands are driving me crazy. When are you going to leave him for real? My hands shook. My mouth went dry. I kept scrolling, even though every message was a punch to the gut. There were weeks, no, months of this. They joked about me, about my job, about how clueless I was. That was when the bottom fell out from under me. Everything I thought I knew, every part of the life we built, was suddenly gone. And for the first time in years, I didn't recognize the woman in my house. Olivia came home a little after 6 the next evening. She walked in like it was any other night, humming under her breath, setting her keys down on the entry table. She didn't look at me, just kicked off her shoes and went straight for the kitchen. I stood at the base of the stairs, her phone in my hand. She didn't notice at first. She pulled a bottle of wine from the fridge, grabbed a glass, and started pouring. "Olivia!" She looked up, startled. "Yeah?" I held up the phone, screen lit, the folder still open. "What is this?" Her face went pale. She didn't speak, just stared at me like she was calculating her next move. "It's not what you think," she finally said, her voice too calm, too careful. I laughed once, sharp and bitter. "No, because I think it's months of lies. I think it's pictures and texts and laughing behind my back." She crossed her arms. "Tom, you're overreacting. It's complicated." "No," I said, stepping closer. "It's not. You cheated on me." There it was, the crack. Her jaw tensed and her eyes flicked away for just a second. Long enough. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said quietly. "It just did." "You didn't mean for it to happen?" I repeated, stunned. "You didn't mean to sneak around, to lie to my face every day?" She slammed her glass on the counter, wine sloshing. "You want the truth? Fine. I felt alone. You were always working, always distracted. I was here, every day by myself, and he paid attention to me." My chest burned. "So you blew up our life because I worked hard? Because I wasn't entertaining enough? I'm not saying it was right," she snapped, "but don't act like this came out of nowhere. You stopped seeing me a long time ago." My voice dropped. "I was trying to build something for us. I didn't know I had to compete for your attention." She shrugged, and the indifference in her eyes cut deeper than anything she'd said. "I'm done, Tom," she said flatly. "This marriage, it's over. It's been over for a while. You just didn't want to see it." I stared at her, searching her face for any sign of regret. There wasn't any. Nothing but that cold, hollow calm. She picked up her glass again, like the conversation was finished. And in that moment, I realized she was already gone. Had been for a long time. I just didn't want to believe it. The house was too quiet. After Olivia left that night, no suitcase, no dramatic exit, just walked out like she was grabbing milk. I sat on the edge of our bed for hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the blank wall like it might offer an explanation I hadn't thought of yet. I kept replaying our argument in my head, over and over, her voice cold and final. "I'm done, Tom." How long had she been waiting to say those words? How long had she been practicing them? Eventually, I wandered through the house. I opened drawers, pulled open cabinets, not looking for anything specific. Maybe just trying to prove to myself that this was still my home, that I still had some kind of control over the ruins of what used to be our life. In the closet, I saw the empty hangers. Not all of them, just enough to make it obvious she'd already started moving on long before that night. Some of her shoes were missing too. A few gaps in the bookshelf where her novels used to be. She'd been packing up little by little, and I hadn't even noticed. In the bathroom, her perfume bottle was gone, the one I used to hate because it made me sneeze. Now the absence of that smell was like a punch to the chest. I found her laptop in the living room. I opened it without really thinking. The password was the same as always. My birthday. That stung. I clicked through her email. There were old messages between her and her sister. "He's not a bad guy," Olivia had written. "He just makes me feel invisible." I sat back and stared at those words until they blurred. I didn't recognize this version of her, and I didn't know how much of that was my fault. Eventually, I grabbed my coat and left. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to breathe somewhere else. I walked through the neighborhood for a while. The streets were quiet, a few porch lights still on, someone's dog barking in the distance. After about an hour, I ended up at this little dive bar on the edge of town. I'd driven past it for years, but never went in. That night, I pushed through the door and didn't look back. I sat at the far end of the bar and ordered a whiskey, then another, then two more. It didn't help. The numbness stayed. If anything, it got heavier. I looked around at the other people. A couple guys watching a game, someone playing darts, a woman scrolling through her phone, and I felt completely alone in a room full of people. At some point, I realized I wasn't drinking to forget. I was drinking because I didn't want to feel anything at all. And that scared me more than anything Olivia had said. It was almost 2 a.m. when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, the light from the street lamp cutting across the room. I hadn't really slept in days, just drifted in and out of these restless, blurry pockets of time. The screen lit up with her name, Olivia. Just one message, can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the reply, then pulled back. Part of me wanted to delete it without a second thought. But another part, some pathetic buried instinct, needed to know what she could possibly have to say now. I typed back, "What do you want?" A few minutes passed before the bubble popped up. Then her message came through. "I made a huge mistake. I know I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to say it. I'm sorry, Tom. I really am." I sat up in bed, heart pounding, jaw tight. It was so simple, just a string of words on a screen. But they hit me like a damn truck. Was this the first time she'd felt something real since she walked out? Or was this just guilt talking? Loneliness? Regret? I didn't know how to feel. My hands were shaking again. I hated that she still had that effect on me. I typed, "Why now?" Her reply came fast. "Because I finally realized what I lost. You didn't deserve any of this. You were always good to me. I took that for granted. I'm so sorry." I didn't respond right away. I set the phone down and leaned back against the headboard, eyes burning. I'd spent the last few days trying to drink her out of my system, but there she was, inside my head again, like she never left. I picked up the phone again and started typing, then stopped, then started again. "I believe you're sorry, but that doesn't change anything." I hit send. A few seconds later, "Do you think we could fix this?" That was the moment it hit me, really hit me, that I couldn't go back. Even if part of me wanted to believe in second chances, I knew we were past that line. I didn't answer, not because I was trying to be cruel, but because silence was the only honest thing I had left to give her. We met at a park halfway between her new apartment and what used to be our home. It was a gray, overcast afternoon. Fitting, I guess. I got there early and sat on a bench near the duck pond. The trees were just starting to lose their leaves. A few kids ran past with sticks, chasing each other while their parents scrolled on their phones. I spotted Olivia before she saw me. She walked slowly, hands in her jacket pockets, hair pulled back like she hadn't bothered with a mirror. When she finally reached the bench, she gave me a hesitant smile and sat down, not too close. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey." We sat there in silence for a moment, the sound of wind rustling through the trees filling the space between us. "I've been thinking a lot," she started, "about everything." I nodded, not ready to speak. I want you to know I never meant for it to go that far," she said. "I didn't plan it. I felt like I was drowning in our life. I didn't know how to say that out loud." "You could have tried," I said, keeping my voice steady. Instead of stepping out behind my back, she looked down at her hands. I know I messed up." Another long pause. She pulled her sleeves over her hands and stared at the pond. "I didn't leave you for him," she said. "I left because I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't feel seen, not by you, not by anyone. I was angry and scared and you were selfish," I cut in. "Let's not dress it up." She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I was." I studied her face. She looked tired, worn out in a way that made her seem older. Maybe she was struggling too, but I didn't want to feel sorry for her. "I'm not asking to fix things," she said. "I know that's not realistic. I guess I wanted to explain, maybe to get your forgiveness, or at least your understanding." I let her words hang there for a bit. Part of me wanted to reach for something, maybe the history we had, or the version of her I fell in love with. But it wasn't there anymore. "You want closure," I said. She met my eyes, and for once, didn't look away. "Yeah," I nodded. "Then here it is. I don't hate you, Olivia, but I'm done trying to understand you." Her eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. She just nodded back, stood up and said, "Goodbye, Tom. Goodbye." And with that, she walked away, and I let her go. This time, for good. I left the park walking slowly, my hands jammed in my coat pockets. I thought that conversation would bring clarity, maybe even peace. Instead, it just left me empty, like closing a book that didn't have an ending. I was halfway down the block when I saw her car. Olivia's black Honda, parked near the curb. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, maybe someone else with the same make and model. But as I got closer, I saw the dent in the rear bumper, the one she never got fixed after backing into a shopping cart 2 years ago. Then I saw him. The same guy from that first day. The one who walked into my house like he belonged there. He was leaning against the car, looking at his phone like he was waiting for a ride share, or for her. I stopped walking. My feet felt heavy. My heart started pounding again, the way it had back in our living room, back when this all began. He looked up and noticed me, straightened up, slid his phone into his pocket. "Hey," he said, cautious but not surprised. I walked up until we were just a few feet apart. "You waiting for her?" He shrugged. "We were gonna talk. She said she needed some time." I laughed, dry and bitter. "Yeah, she's big on needing time, and attention, and validation." He held up his hands like he didn't want to fight. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married when we first started talking. By the time I found out, it was already too late," I finished for him. "Right. I'm not trying to justify it," he said. "I get why you'd hate me, but I wasn't the one who made vows to you." I clenched my jaw. He was right, technically, but hearing it out loud still made me want to swing at him. "I loved her," I said. "I gave her everything I could." He nodded, staying quiet. "And you?" I paused, then shook my head. "You were just the excuse she needed." He looked away toward the park. "Maybe." The silence stretched between us. I realized there was nothing else to say. No confession would change what had happened. No apology would undo the wreckage. My phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. "I didn't leave you for him. I left because I was lost. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a few seconds, then slid my phone back into my pocket without replying. I looked at the guy one more time and said, "You can have whatever's left." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't need another answer. I didn't need more words from her. The truth had already spoken loud enough. The voicemail came 2 days after I saw her with him. I was sitting on the back steps of the house, drinking a cup of coffee that had gone cold. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw her name on the screen. 1 missed call, 1 voicemail. I stared at it for a while before I hit play. Her voice cracked right away. "Tom, I don't even know where to start." There was a long pause and I could hear her trying to hold it together. "I've been thinking about everything, every single moment since that night. I've replayed it 1,000 times in my head, and I keep asking myself how I let it all fall apart." She took a shaky breath. "You didn't deserve this. You didn't deserve any of it. And I hate myself for what I did. I was selfish. I was lost. I thought I needed something else, but the truth is, I was running away from myself." I paused the message. My chest was tight. I didn't want to hear it, but I couldn't stop. I hit play again. If I could take it back, I would. I miss you. I miss our home. I miss the way you used to make coffee just the way I liked it, even when we were mad at each other. I miss your steadiness, your quiet, your heart. Another breath. "I'm not calling to ask you to take me back. I just needed you to know I'm sorry, for real. I hope someday you can forgive me." Click. I sat there, staring out at the yard. The grass hadn't been mowed in weeks. A single lawn chair was tipped over near the fence. It looked like it belonged to someone else's life. I could hear her words echoing in my head. The pain, the regret, the desperation. But they didn't bring me comfort. They didn't bring clarity, just more weight. I opened my phone and deleted the voicemail. Then I walked back inside, opened my laptop, and searched for a divorce lawyer. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I hated her, but because I needed to move forward, and this was the only way. The next week, I filed the papers. No dramatic announcement, no screaming match, just a signature and a quiet walk back to my car. That night, I made dinner for 1. I ate in silence, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel broken. I felt still. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was a start. The morning after I filed for divorce, I woke up and realized I didn't have to check my phone for her messages anymore. No more wondering if she was coming home late. No more waiting for explanations that never made sense. But that didn't mean I felt free. Not yet. The house felt unfamiliar. I wandered from room to room like a guest. Our wedding photo was still on the hallway shelf. I didn't take it down. Not out of sentiment, but because I didn't know what to do with it. It was like looking at strangers. For a few days, I barely left the house. I slept too much, skipped meals, and let the dishes pile up. But something shifted the following week. I saw an old flyer on the fridge for a woodworking class I had once said I'd maybe check out. I went. The class was quiet. mostly retirees and a couple of dads looking for a break from their kids. I made a simple cutting board the first day. It didn't look like much, but it felt good to create something with my hands, something real. I also started walking again, just around the neighborhood at first. No music, no phone, just moving, breathing, thinking. Some days I'd pass by families in their yards or couples walking dogs, and I'd feel a tug in my chest, a quiet ache. But I didn't let it stop me. I reached out to my friend Matt one weekend and invited him over for beer and a game. He didn't say anything about Olivia. We just sat, watched football, and laughed about how bad our fantasy teams were. It was the first time in weeks that I laughed without guilt. Eventually, I found a therapist. I wasn't sure what I expected, but talking to someone who didn't know Olivia, who didn't take sides, helped more than I thought it would. We talked about shame, about self-worth, about grief. Turns out, grieving a marriage is a lot like grieving a person. There were still hard days, days where I missed the comfort of routine, of being someone's husband. Sometimes I'd catch myself reaching for 2 plates at dinner, or scrolling through old photos late at night. But little by little, the weight started lifting. I began to remember who I was before Olivia, and I started imagining who I could be without her. One evening, I stood in front of the hallway shelf and finally took the wedding photo down. I didn't cry, I didn't smile either. I just set it in a drawer, closed it, and exhaled. It was the first real breath I'd taken in a long time. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon in early spring, the kind where the sky was pale blue, and the wind smelled faintly like grass and sun-warmed pavement. I was sitting on a bench at Maple Ridge Park, the same park where Olivia and I used to walk before dinner on summer nights, back when we still laughed at the same things. I had a paperback in my lap, but I wasn't reading. I was just sitting, breathing, watching kids run across the playground, parents chatting near the picnic tables. Life was happening all around me, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was on the outside looking in. Then I heard footsteps slow behind me. "Tom?" Her voice hadn't changed. It still had that soft, unsure lilt to it, like she was testing the waters before fully stepping in. I turned and saw Olivia standing a few feet away. She looked different. Not physically, but something about her presence. Smaller, maybe, less certain. "Hey," I said. My voice was calm, steady. She tucked her hands into her coat pockets and gave a half smile. "Mind if I sit?" I hesitated for a second, then nodded. We sat in silence for a bit, side by side, like 2 people waiting for a bus that wasn't coming. "I've been thinking about you," she said finally. "About us." I didn't respond. "I just needed to see you one more time," she went on. "To say I'm sorry, again. I know I said it before, but it's been weighing on me. What I did, how I hurt you, I wish I could take it all back." I nodded slowly, letting the words drift past without clinging to them. "I understand if you can't forgive me," she added, "but I needed to ask." I looked over at her. "I do forgive you." She blinked, surprised. "You do?" "Yeah," I said. "But that doesn't mean we go back. Forgiveness isn't about starting over. It's about letting go." She swallowed, her eyes flicking toward the kids playing nearby. "I get that." We sat for another minute. Then she stood. "I hope you find someone who deserves the kind of love you gave me," she said. I didn't answer. I just gave her a small nod. That was enough. She walked away slowly, her figure shrinking as she made her way down the path and out of sight. I exhaled and leaned back on the bench. It was over. No bitterness, no longing. Just space. Space to breathe, to be, to become whoever I was meant to be on the other side of all this. I closed the book in my lap, stood up, and walked away from the bench. The sun was warm on my shoulders, and for once, the weight was gone.